Conquest has become a prominent figure within the superhero zeitgeist recently, courtesy of a memorable introduction and an astoundingly brutal fight within the world of Amazon's Invincible. If anyone had any doubts as to the cultural presence within current animation Invincible possesses, this is yet another feather in their cap to show its influence. So much so, in fact, that it can't help but be fun to imagine how other popular worlds would fare if Conquest asked their verse to stand for his arrival. For this video, we will use Amazon's Invincible as the main reference, with use of the comics to fill in any extra gaps needed concerning Conquest's ability. I won't mince words any longer since there's a bit to get through, so hit the like button and subscribe, worm. And so the scenario goes that some months ago, a strange man in white claiming to be something called a Viltrumite descended down from the skies, commanding the surrender of the planet. Unfortunately for this Viltrumite, he landed in Q City, and after beginning something of a rampage once his orders were not followed, a man in a dog suit appeared, and sometime after, the Viltrumite was never heard from again. With the incident being taken care of, it vanished from the minds of the locals, and the Hero Association never heard much on it either. Therefore, time continued on with the situation soon turning forgotten. However, that radio silence from the Viltrumite created cause for investigation by his superiors, and suspecting the worst, Conquest has been sent to find out what happened to the Viltrumite warrior who disappeared on the planet called Earth. Upon entry, Conquest arrives in C City and seeks his first challenge after swatting away various C and B class heroes, claiming he'll take this planet for the Viltrum Empire. S class hero Tanked Up Master appears after hearing of the chaos, and while strong, he is unable to match the brute strength of the Viltrumite known as Conquest. With Tanked Up Master beaten severely, Zombie Man arrives on the scene just in time to deflect attention toward himself to keep Tanked Up Master alive, albeit out of the fight. Before engaging, Zombie Man alerted the Hero Association that more firepower would be required and that a highly probable dragon level threat had appeared. Knowing he himself would not have the means to defeat Conquest, Zombie Man instead engaged in a grotesque affair against the invader, where he was mutilated, split apart, caved in, and more, only to regenerate each and every time, to Conquest's delight and curiosity, a toy which could seemingly never break. However, it was all to buy time for the arrival of Metal Knight, who would surely have the capacity to blow this hulking brute away. Alas, as we've all become used to seeing, anytime Metal Knight's robots enter the fray, it's not long before it ends up in pieces, and here is no different. Despite the artillery unloaded, even if lowered due to it being within a city, Conquest bull rushes and overpowers the Metal Knight drone, tearing it in half with his superior strength, while Zombie Man, powerless even if healed, has now seen himself rendered ineffective, plus both Tanked Up Master and Metal Knight downed, the latter of who used his computer systems to ping a further danger alert to the Hero Association headquarters. With 3 S-class heroes defeated, the next move is clear: to send in Terrible Tornado and any other available S-class heroes against a threat with confirmed civilian and hero casualties, who is assumed to be a danger to the planet. With psychic powerhouse Tatsumaki on the scene due to high alert, does he go any further? Now, there's a huge spaceflight speed equaling combat speed within planets misconception which gets thrown around with too much confidence when talking about Amazon's Invincible characters, and the show's own plot has debunked that numerous times by never demonstrating characters on Earth fighting consistently at or beyond light speed. Traveling speed via flight through extended acceleration uninterrupted through straight distances do not translate to reflex-driven combat, as Amazon's Invincible has narratively proven time and time again. I was going to do a whole section making this very clear, but it ended up adding an extra 10 minutes to the video, which took attention away from the main topic. So for the sake of this video, I'll give Conquest faster than light combat speed instead of dropping an extra 10 minutes on your head about why he doesn't, since I'd have him anywhere between massively hypersonic and relativistic, going by Red Rush versus Nolan and other suggestive things. But this time, faster than light it is. Alright, so I'm sure many of you are somewhat sick of having the same Invincible feats said back to you over and over from all different channels, who would no doubt explain them far better than me anyway. So to keep it simple, Conquest on a good day ranges from around moon level to small planetary. This is mostly going by his performances against and compared to other strong Viltrumites such as Nolan, who stated he diverted a meteor the size of Texas, which is probably the most fan-recited power scaling statement from a show in history, and partook in that planet-busting feat where himself and 2 others teamed up to hit a weakened planet after it had been struck with a mighty powerful weapon to destabilize core, and the effort could have nearly killed those involved, judging by the risks according to themselves. Judging that Conquest is more powerful than Nolan, but not immensely more, Conquest can do all that Omni-Man can do with a little something something on top. You will ask then, why did he lose to Mark? And that's a good question, but it has mainly to do with Conquest's behavior and approach to fighting, where he leaves himself open to attack plays with his food, and can't fire himself up with adrenaline or anger the way Mark could. Not to mention Atom Eve's vital support. Those factors are really what cost him that battle. If Mark didn't have help and Conquest decided to not F around, Conquest would have had that victory secured very convincingly and showed great amounts of durability within that battle, handling everything a very game Mark could slug him with. The only thing Conquest couldn't handle was Mark's head game. As in, like, headbutts. Yeah. So basically, moon to small planetary. Even though I'm against giving him faster than light combat speed on Earth, I did say I'd give it to him for this video. Many times faster than light flying speed is reserved for space, where there's essentially no atmosphere, gravity, or obstructions, and that doesn't translate to equaling dynamic, ever-changing combat speed on Earth, as proven by every single Viltrumite who has ever fought a battle on Earth. Overall, he's an absolute menace with a penchant for dragging out fights the best he can for his own enjoyment, and such a combination of speed, raw power, light, and experience gives him an edge most people he's ever fought could not overcome. Now that we know Tatsumaki is on the move, what does she bring with her arrival? The true scale of her power was greatly hindered throughout the beginning and middle of the Monster Association arc, since she had a lot of direct and indirect babysitting to do, as crazy as that is to say in relation to the other phenomenal S-class heroes. Her psychic powers were stretched far and wide with a multitude of complexity attached, so we don't get to see the upper end of Tatsumaki's focus power until when she is finally able to lock in against Psychos Orochi. Orochi prior to this has been calculated numerous times at small planetary, and Psychos Orochi is definitively above that due to the fusion along with God's interference. While exhausted and injured before having been able to go all out, it's important to preface, Tatsumaki was able to display attack potency which can scale up to planetary, going by her ability to not only withstand an attack which could shave a continent from the edge of the planet without it even directly touching the Earth, but also managed to essentially one-shot Psychos Orochi's grand form, which did that once she no longer had to hold back by twisting its entire mass fatally along with the surrounding area itself. Again, this is her getting serious after she was already wounded and exhausted because of being stretched so thin for the first half of the mission, indicating that she may even be large planetary when fresh. That's a lot of psychic power you wouldn't want to have focused solely on you. Some will also attempt to say that the planet shaving attack is multi-continental. However, that makes no sense when it was already that without even thumping the Earth directly due to the angle of the attack, especially since the pre-fusion of this monster is already capable of more than multi-con. During the Monster Association arc, Tatsumaki proved she can deal with planetary attacks durability-wise with her shields and barriers, skill-wise using her Esper powers to catch and deflect them. Not only that, but can essentially ragdoll, twist, crunch, explode those beneath her level through sheer telekinetic might. If you want to see everything I've just said and more in scientific detail from someone who can explain it better than I, please check out Satori's video titled One Punch Man is Far Stronger Than You Think, where he breaks it down very well, since many people are always so keen to downplay the characters of One Punch Man who aren't named Saitama or Cosmic Figaro. So if you have any issue with anything I've said, Satori's brilliant video will present the power output better while filling in all the holes from my simpler breakdown for this video so we can stay on track. As for speed, Tatsumaki, by scaling above most other S-class heroes as the most powerful behind Blast, leaves her comfortably at faster than light combat speed via being comparable or above Genos, Flashy Flash, and others, some of whom have demonstrated surpassing into light speed reactions as early as the G4 fight when Genos dodged lasers which were confirmed to have the properties of light, and again when battling Awakened Cockroach who stated he could dodge above the speed of light. There's also the case of her being able to notice, keep distance from, and react to speed of sound. Sonic, who despite his name, has very convincingly entered into light speed territory by this point in the series due to non-stop training, as shown by keeping up with Flashy Flash who performed these movements in combat back in the MAR at faster than light speed. By defeating Psychos Orochi, she naturally surpasses Orochi, who no-diffed light speed awakened Cockroach before he could react, for further evidence. Pretty self-explanatory overall. Okay, with the world's best Esper confronting the sadistic Viltrumite Conqueror, let's look at the most likely outcomes while keeping them both in character. The first outcome is that Tatsumaki twists him to death immediately. And I know hearing that is going to cause a visceral reaction from some of you instinctively, but listen, Viltrumites are canonically weak to internal attacks. Their organs and inner anatomy are not covered by the same durability their exterior offers, meaning Tatsumaki is very capable of spiraling his body into a contorted mess like she did to Psychos Orochi, which compromises his internal functions. Or she can burst him from the inside, since the design of his anatomy is very in line with the human body, giving Tatsumaki Tatsumaki the know-how to do so, as she's been shown to interact with areas within the body before. This completely negates his durability, and since she's an Esper, this isn't something he could see coming or traditionally dodge even if he anticipated it. Typically, Tatsumaki wouldn't do this to humans, since she's a hero who doesn't kill heroes or civilians and only fights monsters with serious intention. But if given directive or aware that Conquest is a legit enemy, then Tatsumaki is known to instantly end her opponents without prejudice. It's kind of an anticlimactic answer for how the fight would go, but that's essentially what would happen. Contrasting to Conquest, who likes to take things slow and or let people take the first shot, this fight could be over in a matter of seconds because of his attitude. Outside of that, she could ragdoll Conquest with ease. He'd be twisted, bent, slammed, contorted, and more. Not to mention his robotic arm would be gone in seconds since it's an object, meaning he'd be trying to handle this entire scenario with one arm, while Tatsumaki flies him around like a bit of food on a spoon, heading towards a baby's mouth. Judging by what Tatsumaki has lifted, along with her ability scaling up to large planetary, or even just planetary if you have an issue with that, controlling Conquest's body would pose absolutely zero issue to her. For the first time, it's possible that Conquest experiences a fight which she would have no enjoyment in. Allowing for the thought of Conquest somehow getting attacks on her, those instinctive barriers she covers herself with and the shields she can put up are of at least planetary power, so this isn't a case of Conquest needing to just get her once or anything like that, which further cripples any slight chance of victory. Some of you will argue that Conquest's strength could let him break out of the psychic hold, which is false. Conquest will not have the positioning, form, momentum, or composure to assert his lifting strength when he is being manipulated in all manner of ways. Arms pulled, legs bent, knees twisted, spine compressed. This is like asking a weightlifter to lift his usual weight while having people yanking on his shoulder joints, hyperextending his knees, forcibly bending his elbow inward, and so forth. That weightlifter will not be able to lift even half his usual lifting weight, if even that at all, with his upper body and lower body under incredible oppression, in turn meaning Conquest is not breaking out of her telekinesis even if it were a possibility, because he has no way of applying his ideal force when his movement is paralyzed, his nerves are screaming in pain, and his body is being damaged inside and out. And that's ignoring the fact that she's lifted far heavier things than him and scaled to higher damage output than him anyway, but I'm just being thorough at this point. This also comes back to how some people tried to use Saitama being heavy for her post-MA arc as a possible option for other strong people, but this is not a feat of strength, since he isn't even actively resisting and instead is intrigued that he's floating. This is Saitama naturally anti-haxing psychic powers in the way he anti-haxes everything, like touching portal gates, invading mental dimensions, surviving in space with no real explanation, and more. Not some general super strength, since Tatsumaki has ragdolled skyscraper-sized monsters with her powers, who would obviously possess monstrous levels of super strength. So, if Conquest descended down upon One Punch Man's Earth, would the S-class heroes stop him? The answer is yes, because Tatsumaki alone is enough to target his weaknesses and dominate him entirely. Even if you did allow him to be many times faster than light, Conquest is very likely to let Tatsumaki make the first move anyway, or he won't go full throttle right off the bat, as we've seen in the series. Both those choices leading to his paralysis, crippling, and subsequent defeat. Not to mention, he wouldn't be able to break through her barriers efficiently enough, and his failure to do so would leave him open to attack, which someone like Tatsumaki would immediately punish, halting any movement whatsoever. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you on the next one.